Looks like people are already checking in. Um, how'd you guys do that? Everybody's already got comments on there. Huh? Oh, Jackie started the comments. All right, you're not in trouble. This is, a community, and I was late, so you got started without me. That's fine by me. So, yeah, I was wondering how y'all were started before I even got here. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah. So let me get my comments up. Hey, Jackie and Kelly. So here I am in South Carolina. Hi, Sarah. Um, and I don't know what it's like where you're at. Is it cold? It's cold. Soren, I sent a question late. You sent it via email? Is that what you mean, Soren? Hi, Ellie, Leslie, Kate Nadine, uh, Patrick. Snowing in Ireland. Hello from Turkey. How cool is that? That people from Turkey. Uh, no, you can't. You can't send me your family, Jackie. I've got my hands pretty full with my own family. So yeah, my wife is back in Indianapolis, and I really miss her. Really miss her. Hello from London, Ontario, Canada. I've enjoyed the videos after a horrible breakup after 2 years with a borderline. That's Bob London. So Australia. Hey, this is really cool. How many countries do we have here? Ontario, Turkey, Australia. That's really wonderful. So, yeah, I get to get on an airplane and go to Indianapolis where it's cold as hell, and I get to see my wife for 2 days. And then she's going to get to go to on site for a week. Soren's planning a trip to go to Turkey. How cool is that? So, Soren, did you email your question in? Let me check. Let me check my email on my phone here, and if it's on there, I'll see it. You emailed it. Okay. Well, let me. I'll just pull it up on my phone here. I have. I have one long, sort of interesting question from somebody we're going to call her Mary. Hey, I sold a book. Where did I sell a book? In Florida. How about that? Okay, Soren, yeah, I see your email. Okay, so tell you what, we'll start. Hey, Dan, how's it going, brother? Uh, Agnes, I started late. They started without me. It's like I was running late, and they started partying without me, which is fine, which is cool. So you're not too late. So we'll start with uh, Soren's question. And there's Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Um, an angel to all of us. You're a superstar to all of us. Oh my God. Hugs to my darling Renda, missing her much. Um, I want to back up here. If I can back up, there I go. I want to hear from this Bob London. He says he's processing and he's trying to heal, and it's a long, dirty, rotten road. And There'll be no contact ever again. And he says, thanks, Mark, for making so many incredible videos. Not enough therapists understand the torment of narcissistic abuse. So Jackie says she misses Andy. Okay, so we're going to start with Soren, and then I have a long, interesting question from Mary. And then I also wanted to sort of change up what we're doing here and come from a different, maybe a different perspective. I'm gonna do a check-in, and this isn't group therapy per se. This is not group therapy. I'm not responsible for your mental health, and I'm not treating you as a psychotherapist. Hey, we got somebody from the Netherlands. This is so cool. Wow. How is that possible that my little iPad that I turn on, we're on 5 continents now. Group hugs. Group hugs. Hi, Zach. Okay, so we're going to go with Soren's question. I'm going to read the question from Mary, and then I'm going to model doing a check-in, and then I want you guys to practice checking in. And we're going to try to maybe change the culture a little bit on the show, because a lot of these YouTube shows, live stream shows, are you message in and you ask questions to the almighty Oz, to the guy who has the answers, or the woman who has the answers. The problem is, in this station, we don't have an almighty Oz. We just got me. And I'm just a broken human being, who's struggling with, my own complex PTSD. So, okay, so we got a plan. Okay, so here we go. Soren says, I'm having a hard time tonight. I ended up confronting my father regarding the rampant physical, emotional, and sexual abuse in my childhood. I discussed the heartache I went through because of this profound betrayal. My brother has schizophrenia and is having a rough time with suicidal ideation. I'm going to try to adjust here just a wee bit here, if I could. I confronted my father regarding the fact that he is partially responsible for the hell my brother is going through. The intense emotional pain is due in part to the complex PTSD we both received from such traumatic childhoods. When I confronted my father, I did not raise my voice, and I did my best to remain respectful. I was a bit sarcastic because my father refused to take any responsibility for his mistakes. He won't acknowledge that he did anything wrong, and he will not apologize. I don't know what to do about this. How do I accept that my father will never change while simultaneously having to witness the ongoing results of his destructive behavior? People are still being hurt by him, and it makes me feel powerless. Can you discuss this on the show tonight, Soren? So, what I'm going to do first of all is throw this open to the group and ask for feedback from the group. I do have some things to share about confronting a parent, but you guys just heard the story. Does anybody have some feedback and comments for Soren? I'm gonna get a whiteboard out because I'm gonna be writing for you tonight a little bit. So confronting a parent and have them not own it. What do you do with that? Have some of you gone through that, confronting a parent and have them not own it? How old is his dad? Somebody asked. Carrie says, every time I confronted my parents, I've been gaslighted. Soren says he's 75 years old. So, Benny, hi Benny. Yes, and they wanted to literally cut my throat. You know you're having a bad time confronting your parents when they literally want to cut your throat. That's a bad sign. So let's back up. Bob London says, for Soren, my mother and grandmother were both narcissists. I believe that you need to leave them alone if they can't own it. I was abandoned by my mom at 2, 15 foster homes. I'm sorry, Bob. That's just horrible. 15 foster homes. I can't imagine. And then Benny says you have to be careful and you have to have an exit strategy. And Soren says, yeah, he gaslights me. Said it never happened. Benny says, hey, Mark, good to see you. Dorian Robinson, my mother is adamant. I'm imagining my childhood. We got nothing better to do than to sit around and make this stuff up, right? Bob says they don't change. I say no contact. Ye Wang, my husband does not want to be with me. We are separated, living now. What should I do? All right, let me write that one down, and we'll come back to it. My husband does not want to be with me. Separated. Yay. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Can Soren get custody of his brother? You guys are ahead of me here. Patrick says a similar thing happened to me. I was just supported myself inside, knowing that I was standing up for myself and healing by saying what was in my heart. Leslie said, I asked for a little compassion and understanding, and she looked at me like I had no idea what I was talking about. Bob says, when you tell somebody that they hurt your feelings and they roll your eyes and say, fuck you, or they don't care, then that is someone who needs to be left alone, especially when it happens multiple times. You get more comfort from a pet rock, says Ellie. Okay, so let me share some things with you. more from a therapist point of view. And I just got this really big whiteboard. I normally have a tiny one, but I'm taking that back to Indianapolis. So we'll see how that works. Turn it up this way. Okay, so here's the deal. My experience, I had a borderline mother and an empath, super codependent father. It's stickmen. I'm not going to draw stickmen. I am going to draw this. Okay, so sort of a process of working through issues with family of origin, and I assume that not every single one of you had both parents that are unchangeable narcissists. Maybe that's true. My experience is, narcissism is sort of on a continuum, and no parent is going to be confronted and just thank you for the confrontation. Let me back up. I missed a comment. Sandra says, I remember confronting my borderline mother, and she listened, then quickly dismissed my memories as that's just the way things had to be. No compassion, no ownership, no nothing. Bob says, they will even slap you in the face and not apologize. They will lie and claim that you pushed them. Meanwhile, you've never lifted a finger. It's horrific. No, Dan, we're not going to play Hangman tonight. This is better. Okay, so let's say you have a mild to moderate narcissistic parent. This is a big board. You're not going to be able to confront them once. So the first thing is realization. The first thing is recognizing who your parents are. And y'all didn't always know how mean and nasty and crazy your parents were, right? We are given psychological defense mechanisms, and we don't know what's normal and what's not normal because that's what we sort of grew up with. And there's a family denial that so the first thing is realization, and I would grade most of you as having an A+ in realization, as in who your parents are. So I'm preaching to the choir, right? Hey, there's Andy. Somebody was saying they missed Andy, and bang, there he is. Okay, so the second thing is to feel the implications of who your parents were and what they did. And, many of us are doing that by getting involved romantically with a narcissist and having them, shatter us into a billion pieces. And then we're brought back to working on our family of origin stuff, because I was just working with a client, and she grew up with a horrible narcissist, and he was a parasite. And now she's not even with a fellow, she's divorced from him, but he's a horrible narcissist and he's a parasite. And she's this really strong, capable, amazing woman, but we have a need to reenact our family of origin. It sucks that if you're abandoned horrifically or abused, that's what you're going to pick to fall in love with and marry. Okay, so first thing is knowing the truth. Second thing is feeling. Eventually, it's expression. And that means not being afraid. That means having courage. That means setting your parents down and telling them the truth. That means flying in the face of the whole family of origin and knowing you're right and having that conviction, even though all of them have combined together to say, you know, that you're the bad guy, you're the troublemaker. Lisa has an interesting question. She says, what do you do if you argue with the dead all the time? Both of my parents are deceased, but I went through this process. And I guess what I want to say to you is it's not a one-time deal. I spent 4 years confronting my mother. And this was before email. This was before text messages. It was either on the phone or it was face to face or it was old-fashioned snail mail. And I still have stacked this thick of snail mail of, you know, letters from my mother. So my mother, even though she was a borderline and a narcissist, I couldn't change her, but I changed how she treated me because she was the ultimate victim and venter and triangler. And you get around my mother and she would just start venting and dumping and verbally vomiting on you about whoever she was angry with. So after 4 years of expression, she would call me and start venting, and I'd go, Mom, I could not care less. I'm not your friggin' therapist. If you need a therapist, why don't you go get a therapist? But I'm not your therapist. So I don't care. All right? Let's be clear about that. If you want to have like an actual conversation with me where you ask me questions, that I would be interested in. But don't just call me and vomit on me. Venting is like vomiting on somebody. I tell my clients, sometimes a client comes in and they think because they're paying $175 an hour that they have the right to vent and triangle. And I say, contraire. You cannot vent and triangle in therapy. If you spend your 50-minute hour venting and triangling, my fee is $1,000. And if you want to do it, I'd be glad to make the $1,000. I'll put up with the vomit and the triangling, but nobody wants to pay the $1,000. So they learn how to not vent and triangle. So my mother would be on the phone. How do you like my fake phone here? Here, I'll come up with a better fake phone. It's really the remote control. So my mom would be on the phone and she'd start triangling and she'd go, oh, I'm venting and triangling. I'm not supposed to do that. And then she'd quit doing it. So the last thing in this process is resolution. And you can either have good resolution or great resolution. And Jackie, I'll come back to your venting question. Great resolution is what I got from my mom when she heard me after I pounded her ass for 4 years of relentless confrontation. And then she owned some stuff and she apologized and she quit venting and triangling. So good resolution is my dad wasn't able to hear me because he was too codependent. So in his case, I sort of had to work on a more of a you're not getting sound. I think people are getting sound, aren't you? Yeah, Kelly can hear. Sharon, I think the sound issue is on your end, I'm hoping. So with my dad, I some of his family of origin is in Pittsburgh. I took a long motorcycle trip to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I met with his family of origin, and I found out a little bit more about his parents and his stepdad who beat him. And hey, Tyler, are you from Pittsburgh? I'm from Butler. You know about the Yuns? And then I sort of came to peace within myself. You're not a Steeler fan, are you, Tyler? I don't like them Steeler fans. I'm a Cowboy fan. So this is a process that you can go through whether your parent's a narcissist or whether they're not a narcissist. Because it isn't really about whether they change. It's about the process of you being able to change. That's really what it's about. So you having courage, you having sense of self, you not being afraid, you having a voice. It doesn't matter whether they change. Fuck them. Doesn't matter whether they change. It matters that you have a sense of self and you're not going to be bullied by anyone. Now, ultimately, you very well might choose to go no contact, but in my opinion, it's worth the conversation. It's worth the confrontation. It's worth calling a spade and punching a bully in their nose. Soren says, fuck him. Okay, so let's back up. Jackie had, I think, a question up here. So Jackie says, I have a question. Where is a person supposed to vent to? Seriously, we all have issues and we need somebody to talk to. You know what? I'm still a little crooked on this. Let me straighten this out. So there's a difference between talking and venting. There's a big difference. Talking is sharing vulnerably. It's not venting about a third party. It's vulnerably sharing your heart. And that's different from venting and triangling. It's way different from venting and triangling. So, cough drop time. Okay. So Soren says, how do you get resolution? Well, Soren, you're probably not going to get resolution from your dad in the sense that he's going to change. It's more about going through the process for you, okay? To constantly not be afraid, to constantly have courage, to constantly punch the bully in the nose. And for me, I did the same process with my dad for 4 years, and he wasn't able to take the information in. But what happened was something just sort of shifted in me, and I was able to, after 4 years of confrontation, realized just how wounded my dad was. And when I was around him, I was no longer so angry. Okay. Sandra says, I think it's normal to want validation from our parents, of course. I am learning, however, that borderlines and narcissists just aren't capable of ownership of their behavior. Healing the child within is helping. So, again, what I would say is you're not 1,000% narcissist or 0%. There's shades of gray in between. My mother was a bad borderline, but she eventually was held accountable by me, and by God, she didn't vent and triangle. You know, she was able to hear, she did own some things, and she did apologize. Sarah says, let me see, you don't have to go to the grave to talk to past family members. The message will be heard or conveyed. Oh, you're talking about visiting a grave there, maybe. Okay. Agnes, I got my resolution with my narcissist sister. She plain admitted being pure evil to me, and we are done. Bob says, I think one of the biggest challenges is not taking on a full victim stance and coming across as someone that exaggerates the situation. And sadly, the word narcissist has become ubiquitous. That is an impressive use of the word ubiquitous. I got to tell you, in my entire 30-year career, I've never used the word ubiquitous, so I am really impressed with Bob. But I'm more impressed with the beginning of his paragraph. He says, one of the biggest challenges is not taking on the victim stance and coming across as somebody who exaggerates. And that is, if you don't feel heard and then you get reactive, who's the crazy one then if you get reactive? Who looks like the crazy one? We do. Patrick says, I became narcissistic in reaction to emotional abuse. Is this common? It can become a default defiant position. That's very true. And it's really about stepping out of the narcissistic system and just not dancing the dance. I'll give you an example of this. We had the Smith family Christmas this year, and it was so hysterical. We have this gift exchange where everybody buys a $25 gift, and then you pick what you want, and then somebody can steal it. And then every year there's this huge fight over the rules. And this year there were only like 11 people there, but there was only 2 people in the room that weren't screaming at the top of their lungs. And I wasn't, because I didn't care about the rules or the gifts. And I was actually capturing the moment. We use this app called, what's it called? Marco Polo, and where you can the whole 22 members of our family are on it, and I was taping it so 22 members could see it, and I was just laughing hysterically. But I wasn't in the emotional field. I didn't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak. Okay. It looks like I quit broadcasting there for a second. Okay. Lisa said, I've watched all these videos and they've really helped. Sarah says, can a person have borderline personality and be narcissistic? Depends on who you ask. Uh, uh, I have a video that it's just called the 9 characteristics of borderline personality disorder. And I used the DSM-3. And it was just a little 17-minute video. I just went over the DSM-3. And eventually, probably in a couple of months, it's going to be our most popular video ever, more popular than the 50 symptoms of narcissistic abuse, which I never thought would happen. But it's my contention that borderlines, very much so, can be narcissistic and dangerous ones. But what breaks my heart is people who have a mild form of borderline personality. They watch that video and they feel like I'm attacking them, and so I've got a lot of negative comments on that video, and that isn't really what I was trying to say. I was just saying an extreme, dangerous borderline is absolutely narcissistic. Comorbidity, they call it, Lisa Quinn says. Mark, do you think I should relocate, being that my borderline ex has moved only a block away? I lost my dog, the person I loved, and now I have to walk by that place every time I go to the store. I would move, Bob, if I were you. Um, most of the time I'm living in South Carolina, but when I'm in Indianapolis, I just constantly get triggered. When we were home, the hospital my daughter was in was right by the pharmaceutical company that my former fiance, works at, and it just triggered the heck out of me. Okay. Bach Concerto says she loves the flower painting. Thank you. I like beautiful things. My daughter Taylor, the artist, said that when she was about 3, and she got something real sparkly and pretty, and she says, I like beautiful things. And so I try to color coordinate the background there so you guys can see beautiful things. Jackie asked how my daughter is, and I was going to share that in a little bit here. But she's out of the hospital, so she is more coherent. But now there's some controversy as to what Miss Taylor's going to do. And Renda and I invited her to stay with us. But so she's better. but she's a work in process, shall we say. Okay, more questions. Breed says how you recovered about the abuse. I don't know if that's about a specific question, but the way we recover from our emotional abuse is by doing a lot of crying, by doing a whole lot of crying, and changing how we think. That's how we heal from our emotional abuse. You know what? I'm going to get my down scroller. That might make it easier to navigate here. Okay. Well, thank you, Jackie. Life can be very challenging. Tyler says he has complex PTSD from emotional neglect. Okay, now I'm scrolling good. Dorian, why is it that the further I get into my realization about how much I've been abused, the worse the complex PTSD gets? That's how it works. Our defense mechanisms are designed to keep us deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid, and so we don't know the truth. And you get in recovery and you start watching these videos and listening to these books and watching these books, or watching these books, reading these books, and you're gonna know a lot of stuff, and when you feel it, it's going to have implications, and it could, cause and trigger your complex PTSD. Okay, so I don't mean to ignore you folks, but I did get an interesting and long question. I'm going to call her Mary. Her name actually isn't Mary, but she wanted a little confidentiality. Dorian says she feels like she's dying half the time. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so here's Mary. And again, I'm going to turn it over to the experts, you guys. One day, while on Facebook, I saw one of my Facebook friends was suicidal. So at least he seemed suicidal. He's a minister and a musician. So I sent him a text to try to help him. It was very innocent, and I meant well. It seems he took it wrong and decided that I would be easy prey, thanks to my empathy. Soon he was texting me and trying to get me to give information about myself. It escalated to the point of him practicing engulfment and trying to take up all my time. This included early morning text at dinner time, and especially text at 1:30 in the morning. It was weird and ridiculous, plus he was acting personal things and seemed not to have any boundaries. He smokes a lot of weed and was hinting around for us to do things like smoke weed, go to musical events. He said he thinks he's bipolar. I would not give him information about myself, so he asked my sister, and I don't know what she told him because she can't be trusted. He threatened to burn himself up in a fire when he realized that I was putting boundaries in place. He said inappropriate things to both of us, I guess to the sister and her. I asked my sister to block him, but I'm not sure that she did. She was very blasé when I first told her. He told my sister that he was in love with me. I find that scary. He had told me that he had feelings for me, which is weird because I'd never even met the guy. He reminds me a lot of my dad, which is surreal. So much pain and wounded spirit. His wife left him and his brother died, and that sent him into a downward spiral. Now I'm afraid that he will try to hurt me. He's an old hippie guy and he's very mentally ill. I'm old too. He offered to help me learn to play the fiddle and said he'd like to accompany me on the guitar. It was like he was trying to sell himself to me or convince me that he's a nice guy. But I saw the red flags. Please advise. Thank you. I'd rather not you use my real name. By the way, he's a total stranger to me, and I don't know him. Since I don't have any pictures of myself on Facebook, only a couple of me when I was very young. He made a sketch with him and sketched me into the drawing, dancing to his guitar, playing and singing. He put it on Facebook. Help, I'm creeped out. He mentioned something about transference when I blocked him, and I felt very tired and drained of my energy. Somehow it seems that he's doing this by proxy. How can I stop him? So, Mary, here's the key sentence. I do feel the pull, and this causes me shame. I do feel the pull toward this man because I've never once been unfaithful to my husband, the narcissist. And I have no intention of being unfaithful now. He just reminds me so much of my dad, which is not good. I will try to catch your live videos. Okay. Then she comes back and she says, I forgot to say that he was love bombing me and telling me that I have a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul. I feel bad for him, but I know that's part of the problem. Dad was a raging alcoholic, so my brain got the wrong data hard written on it. Mom was codependent and she handed that down to me. The reason that I mentioned him is this. Here's the sort of the powerful part to this. It bothers me a lot when people kill themselves, not only because I'm sensitive, because my dad shot himself with a sawed-off shotgun. The last time I saw him was on my oldest son's 13th birthday. I had a premonition when I saw the gun on the wall that he was going to use it. He had a pistol, but it fell behind the bed as my mom was struggling with him. He almost took her as she was trying to get the shotgun away. My brother saw my dad shoot himself. It's so sad and traumatic for those left behind, all the unfinished business. It's been a long time, so I had to learn to let go and move on with my life. Okay, so you guys have heard Mary's story, and I'm going to back up. Is my wife here on the show? Hi, honey. Hey, Lance. Lance, I'm not calling you honey. I'm calling my wife honey. I hope that The weather isn't too bad for me to get home on the airplane tomorrow night. So I sure want to see you. Okay, let's back up. Back up. Soren analysis is this guy sounds like an insane bastard. It's a good analysis. Uh, Badger brother. Why are so many psychopaths attracted to becoming clergymen? Think about it. Because it gives you power. You can speak in the name of God. My wife texted me and said I can tilt the camera down. Is it too high? All right. Down a little bit. Is that better? Okay. Let me know if that's better, honey. Oh, uh, definitely clergymen are drawn to psychopaths are drawn to the clergy because it gives them what do you get? You get a lot of vulnerable people, a lot of vulnerable people. So Soren said to Mary, "Don't feel shame that you feel the pull, because you feel the reenactment." In other words, it's not your fault that you feel the pull because your dad shot himself with a sawed-off shotgun, and this guy brought that up in you. But what made you vulnerable was that you felt that you did feel the pull, and I don't want you to feel shame about that. Somebody that wouldn't have felt the pull is you block them from your phone immediately. Soon as you get the first inappropriate, boundary violating text, you just block them. And you block them off of Facebook, and you don't talk with your sister about it. So that was your Achilles heel. That was the way that he was able to sort of pry into your life, is his being suicidal brought up, issues with your father. Lisa says, love bombing, even something nice is something sinister. Yeah, when somebody love bombs, they're really not being nice. They really are being sinister. Dan says, hi, Renda. So Soren says, yes, Bob, because she can't have you, so she wants to prove that she's important by destroying you. That's good feedback. Okay. So Kate Nadine just said something sort of shocking. My sister's husband, who is a malignant, toxic person, shot their dog. My God. Who shoots their dog? Lovebird says, I call Facebook fake book. Bach Concertos says, love bomb is to gain your trust, and then the fire on the pot gets turned on, and you're being boiled alive in water, and you don't feel it until it's too late. Okay. Okay. So, we're going to transition. Soren says, I was the man with the plan. And there looks like there's 50 of you watching right now. And however many of you would like to do this, I would like to model for you a check-in. And a lot of you do check in. Soren's email, where he talked about what he was going through, was sort of a check-in. But a check-in, again, the normal model of a show like this is ask the expert. And the thing is, all are experts. There are new people who don't understand, but most of you guys could write books on this subject as good as I can. And some of you know a lot more about narcissism than I do. So I don't like the model of ask the expert. Now, I am an expert therapist, but for a lot of the questions that are sent in here, I sort of like turning it over to the group and listening to the group wisdom. But to check in, be authentic, and be vulnerable. So I'm going to check in. So, things were going pretty smoothly for my lovely wife, Renda, and I living down here by the beach. It was warm. The sun would stay up forever. And we'd see a 7 o'clock client and head to the beach, and the sun would still be out. And we'd walk. And I'm not saying it was heaven on earth, but it's pretty cool. But ever since Thanksgiving, there's just been a whole lot of transitioning, a whole lot of family of origin issues, and then moving. Moving is like, you can get complex PTSD from moving, I think. Moving is horrible. Moving is torture. And we've moved basically 3 times in 6 months. And so I've been struggling. And then this week, being away from my wife, Renda is my rock. She's my rock. When I feel my pain, I cry, and she takes off my glasses and she just wipes my tears, and she just keeps wiping until I done. I wish all of you had somebody to wipe your tears. It's lovely. It's just really, really lovely. So what's happened is with all this stuff, and the thing with my daughter, for folks that don't know, my daughter has a bipolar disorder, and it just came through her worst bout of 3 weeks in the hospital, and then we were talking very seriously about having her join our home and live with us in Indianapolis, and not be at the beach and not be with the palm trees. So what has happened is, when you stop taking care of yourself and grind yourself into the ground, for me, I've had fatigue come back. I had a 3:30 today, and I was so tired. I went and laid down, fell asleep, missed the first 15 minutes of the session because I was snoozing. Um, Foggy brain. I was telling my wife I went to the Piggly Wiggly. Has anybody ever been to the Piggly Wiggly? That's not just a place that you saw on Driving Miss Daisy. Just down the street, we got a Piggly Wiggly. And I'd never been there before, but I decided I went there for tartar sauce, toilet paper, and I just wanted a brown bag. I just wanted to use the brown sack because I wanted to wrap something up and send to my son because I got the wrong address. And instead of going to San Francisco, his shoes came here because I have foggy brain. But I went to the Piggly Wiggly and I forgot two of the three things I went there for. Didn't get no tartar sauce, didn't get no brown paper bag. So, another thing, another symptom of, I'll come back, Ellie Gray, another symptom of complex PTSD, and I didn't include this in my 50 symptoms, is, and do you guys relate to this? You're always sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you've had a couple of really heavy shoes drop on you, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And you're afraid. And that's how I've been lately. When I'm working my recovery really strong, I am very courageous. But if you get wound up in something that distracts you, even good things like moving and caring for your bipolar daughter, man, your complex PTSD, it comes back. Complex PTSD is like diabetes. You don't get healed of it, and you got to take care of yourself every day, or it will fucking kill you. It's a very serious condition. So yeah, I've been telling my wife I'm afraid, and I've just been real sad and sort of spiraling in shame. Has anybody ever spiraled in shame where you had a negative thought about yourself and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger? So that's what's going on with me, is I'm sort of struggling. So let me answer this question by Ellie, and I want you guys to be thinking, because I would like you guys to, some of you to check in, by typing, and just sort of take your emotional temperature, try to keep it to like 2 sentences, and share what's going on with you. What is painful to you? You know how they say the camera makes you fatter? On my iPad, my face looks sort of fat, but on my TV it doesn't. So I don't know which is which. I got off topic there. Okay, we're going to answer the question for Ellie. So think about your check-in. Okay. Ellie Gray, has anybody noticed that their ex-spouse narcissist is a combination or composite of childhood people who were narcissists? Duh. Yeah, I might have noticed that. Because my mom was a fake mom, and she abandoned me to the point of I would cry and turn purple. And then she would give her love to my little brother who came along, who was perfect. And I managed to find a a woman who was a fake fiance who gave her love to another male, and I ended up crying from a very primitive, wounded place until I turned purple again. Okay. Okay, I don't see anybody checking in. Oh shoot, I lost my spot here. Okay, so Bob's going to check in. There he is. Good, Bob. Bob, welcome. You've added a lot to the show tonight, Bob. I've really appreciated it. I'm feeling scared to move away from the borderline ex because I'm so used to living here. I don't know what to do. I've never felt validated until tonight, so thank you. I almost killed myself. Hey, Bob, I almost killed myself too. And I'd gone my whole life and I'd never really had a suicidal thought. But right after my shattering, it was just too much. And I was warming up, ready to play a game of basketball. And the plan was to play a couple games of basketball, go home, and I was going to turn on my SUV, turn on my sports car, turn on my motorcycle, take about 5 Ambien, sit in the Thunderbird, and just drift away. But I ended up on a good team, and we ended up we on paper we were a bad team, but we ended up whooping everybody's ass for about 3 straight games, and then I felt better, mainly probably because I got some endorphins. But thank you for sharing, Bob. Don't kill yourself. Keep talking. Come back here every week and be part of this community. Hey, my wife is checking in. Lots of stress, trying to decorate the other house, our condo, and she misses her hubby and dealing with other things. Well, I miss you too, honey. More check-ins. So, feedback is good, but I want to see check-in, brothers and sisters. All right. There's no reason for good people to die. Kate Nadine says she loves this group. I love this group too. All right, y'all quit helping Brother Bob, and I want to see some check-ins. Carrie, maybe this is a check-in. I don't know. Not having a relationship with my parents. My kids are seeing this happen. I feel that there's something wrong with me. I came from a Latin culture and very family oriented, and I'm really far away. All right, Sideways is going to check in, my brother. Here he is. My mom has been behaving oddly. There's been something Stepford wife about her, a glitch in her temperament via text. She leaves exclamation points like she's getting real uppity. Okay, I lost my spot here. Soren says he's feeling less like slapping the shit out of his dad. And he says, thank you. Dorian says, I'm just stressed and tired of reframing my childhood, marriage, and most of my friendships. So lonely after going low contact with ex-wife and mom, no contact with best friend of 16. Dorian, I thought maybe the Dorian sounded like a female name, but it's a guy's name. Kelly says, check in. I don't get it. So check in is tell us what's going on with you. share a feeling, share what's painful. Pretend. This isn't group therapy, but pretend we were in a group therapy group and we were going around in a circle and just share what hurts. I tell my clients that I'm sort of like an ignition to a car, that if you bring the keys and turn the right key in the ignition, it'll rev the engine up. We'll have a killer session. I tell them that I could be on my 11th hour of seeing clients, which sometimes I do on long days in the office. I could be tired, sick, hungry, not want to be there. But if you come in, you bring the key, it engages me in the process. And there's three keys. One is your pain. And I liked how Bob shared his pain. And Bob was probably better off for having done it. The second thing is asking questions, and that's typically what happens here is people ask questions. And the third thing is if you're just completely full of shit. But I'm just saying, let's not just ask questions, let's share pain too. Okay, so Kate Nadine, my sisters disrespect me and believe the charming covert narcissist, my sister-in-law. Okay, so how does that feel when that happens? I skipped ahead. Darn it all. Okay, I'm back. So, how does that feel, Kate Nadine? That you're being disrespected. So a check-in is your situation and then how it feels. Lisa, not having a relationship, friends, or family, that's lonely. Yeah, Soren says, just say how you're feeling emotionally, Kelly. Carrie says, check in is assessing where you're in the process of recovery or acceptance. It's more sort of taking your emotional pulse and saying, what's going on with me today? And I was sharing with you guys between moving and stress with my daughter and being away from my wife, I'm cracking apart. And I'm losing my shit. To be not very clinical about it. Okay. Jackie says, I'm listening to Jerry Wise videos and trying to put something into practice, but it's difficult. By the way, we're chatting with Jerry about the possibility of him not joining Family Tree again, but being part of the Family Tree brand life coaches with some new videos. So if you're a Jerry Wise fan and you want him to make fresh new videos for our channel, then Google him and send him an email and tell him to join us. All right. Bob London says, I listened to a song by Katy Perry called By the Grace of God, and I cried forever. I remember when I went on site, I was actually in Milestones, the treatment center, and a fella like Bob, who is in his pain, he went to crying, and we were sort of hovered around him while I was crying, and he got all snotty. he had just this big snotty thing hanging there, and he didn't care. He didn't care because he was just doing his crying. So I couldn't decide whether to use the tissue to help with the snot situation or not. And I finally just let him be with his snotty situation. Oh, the song stopped you from doing something. It wouldn't have been stupid. It would have been tragic. And it was probably the crying that saved you, Bob. More people check in. I want to hear some feelings and some check in. Loveburn says, I have a borderline mother, and I was her all bad scapegoat child, ended up in dysfunctional relationships, and I'm working on my toxic shame. And I just want to feel normal ups and downs, not crazy ups and downs. Soren Bob Fastcar by Tracy Chapman makes you cry. Sideways used to participate in a men's group, and we would check in, and so he's saying, makes me wonder if we could do live stream like we used to do the men's group on Skype. We did that on Skype, and that's what, again, this isn't therapy. I'm not responsible for all of your mental health, but I do feel like I want to invite you to put more skin in the game. And it's easy to come with your head and focus on the narcissist. I want you to come with your heart and focus on yourself. All right, you hear me? Lance says, I have a hard time with family functions when the ex and her husband attend. I feel like I've been replaced. Andy says that would be good to bring more heart. Soren says, yeah, those crazy ups and downs go on for a few years. He tried to post the Katy Perry track and wouldn't let, probably because of whenever I do Skype, and if I have any music in the background, then they don't monetize the video. So okay. So more check-ins. More check-ins. I want to see some heart and soul. Who's got some heart and soul they want to share? Ellie says, I've been trying to relate the narcissist's background to growing up and how he represents those from childhood. Not divorced yet, so the ex is still something to deal with. Ellie Gray, let me direct you to a book called Getting the Love You Want by Harville Hendrix, and it will tell you everything you need to know about reenacting your childhood all over again with your romantic relationships. Okay, so Kelly says, I'm just tired of all the bullshit and the double talk. Don't say one thing, then when I am all confused because I know what you said, you act like I don't get it. Whoop, let me back up. Darn it all. I'm having navigation issues. Okay, but I do get it. Kelly, can you say more? Uh, are you talking about your I hope you're not talking about us tonight. Well, what are you talking about, Kelly? Andy says, I thought the other day it's been a year since I first came here. The church for the narcissistically abused. We used to call it the church for the narcissistically abused. You know, maybe we should call it that again. Church for the narcissistically abused. Let's start calling it that again. I don't know why we got away from that, but so it's been a year, Andy, since you've been coming. Bach concerto. When we don't receive love, we feel frightened and anxious, like we are alone. This is why we need God's love. Sarah says, I feel sad because I'm the scapegoat and I'm such an outsider. And I've always helped my mom because I felt sorry for her because she was abused. Infidel says, Mark, what can I do if my husband makes fun of my body? I've been asking him to stop for years, and he thinks it's a joke. It's really affecting our sex life and blames my lack of confidence on me. Um, well, you know, whenever somebody steps back from you, it's sort of appropriate to step back from them. And if he makes fun of your body, don't have sex with him at all. And see how that feels to him. Is that music? Is feeling ineffective with career, ineffective with therapy, ineffective with romantic life. Doggone it, I overshot again. I'll catch up here. Doggone it. Minister Smith. That's funny. Okay, so music, feeling ineffective with career, with therapy, with romantic life, with family relationships in general. So, uh, my MYZIK3, I feel you. I've been feeling, I'm about ready to run out of battery. Shoot, that's going to be an issue. Oh man, I'm going to have to do something here. Oh, darn it all. I didn't charge my battery enough, evidently. Shoot. Well, if I unplug the microphone, then we won't have much very good sound, but that's what I'm going to have to do. Let's see if my cord reaches over here. We're having a run out of juice emergency here. Okay, so the sound's going to get worse, but I don't want us to run out of juice quite yet. So, can y'all still hear me? Because I had to unplug uh, the fancy microphone, and I've got to plug in. Oh, we fell over. Okay. Let's see if I can stabilize that. Okay, plug it on the wall. So you guys can hear me still pretty good? Okay. All right. Let me catch back up to where we were, because you guys are sharing some really good comments, which is appreciated. But yeah, I was sharing. You know, I I was sometimes it's like I'm just like really an amazing therapist, and then sometimes I just feel like I sort of suck. You know, last week's live stream show, I wasn't feeling well, so I think that's something that we all go through is feeling ineffective. I know I do. Okay, so Kelly said it wasn't us who sucked. Okay. Angel says, "Hey guys at Family Tree, why don't we make a support group on Facebook, a private group for support for ongoing issues?" We really should do that. We really should. Um, let me get my wife to start that. Honey, can you start us with a support group on Facebook? Because I think that would be really cool. Andy says he liked the name um, Church for the Narcissistically Abused. Jackie says we need to take a love offering. Y'all don't need to take a love offering for me, Minister Smith. The funny thing was my original plan for my career was to be a minister. And right after college, I went to 2 years of ministerial school. I Love Bird says, "Love your channel, love your advice. Hope everyone stays positive, and I'll be back." I think she's out. Church of the Victorious and Triumphant. Woo! Digging that. Uh, Angels hard to find. Well, it's kind of a church based on unconditional love and support and understanding. Huh. I'm going to get all mushy inside if y'all keep talking like this. In December of 2017, I had just gone no contact with my narcissistic ex and was feeling very guilty and vulnerable. Thank you for helping, Mark and everybody. You're welcome. Oh, man. I always wanted to be a pastor. Kelly says, whenever I talk to a person, the conversation goes in circles and ends up heated. And they say one thing, and then when it doesn't make sense, I question it, and they say, "No, I never said that." My stand is about ready to fall over. Kelly, that sounds like what they call word salad when you're talking with a narcissist, and it just makes no sense. And they're using lots of words, but they're not saying anything. That's word salad. I love that concept. Uh, Bach concerto. You are a pastor, and it means shepherd, and shepherd moves the sheep to green pastures and peaceful waters and protects the flock from wolves. I told you guys you were going to make me cry. I told you he was going to do it. Well, Bach concerto, that's what we're trying to do is keep people away from wolves and trying to keep away from the wolves our own selves. I got a I love you from my wife. Bob says empathy is the ability to feel another human being's pain and to recognize and validate it and to be in their shoes for only a minute. Well, thank you. Uh, I call you Agnes. Uh, I'm glad I feel like a good friend to you. Um, you feel like a friend of the show and a friend to me. So, any more people who'd like to check in and talk about their feelings? But I just really want to challenge you. Sarah, thank you. Y'all stop giving me compliments. Jeez. Now somebody says I'm more handsome without the glasses. Jeez. Stop. Um, uh, Dem- Da Marie says sometimes God fulfills the desires of our hearts in non traditional ways. You know, what's cool is Family Tree had a tiny little YouTube channel that nobody really watched. We would make videos on abandonment issues and marriage counseling, and we go a whole year and get 350 views. But then I went through narcissistic abuse and I sort of walked my way through it. And um, one video is like went up to like 127,000 views. So it's like God works in mysterious ways because it just felt like Family Tree had this big of an impact on the world. And by going through this horrible, horrible, horrible thing, it feels like we're starting to really, really reach the world. And that's really beautiful. Um, so, honey, can you be in charge of starting the support group on Facebook? And then uh, we'll we'll talk about we'll talk about it next week. Uh, my wife says, "Hey, no flirting with my husband. That's my job." You're silly. An angel hard to find says, "You don't know how much it helps us when somebody understands what we are going through and supports that suffering. It's the difference between living and dying." Oh, so my wife is going to on site, so she'll set it up when she gets back from on site. Oh, Ellie says, not, if I didn't have things like this, things would be worse. This is the only way I could learn about this because I don't have money for therapy. Sarah says, through this channel, I've become more me. So Jackie's gonna figure out Facebook. If we start a Facebook thing, she's gonna get involved. So so Bob says, see, this is your calling. I don't feel like a hero. And we live in so many different places. Thank you, my friend, for being kind and honest. Raise your hands in the air and say, I'm fabulous. Sarah says she's a warrior. Um, Breed says, uh, uh, your channel for Holland uh, in the night is when I don't get sleep and I'm thinking bad things happen to me. Thank you. Your videos and thought process have got me through so much already. Uh, an angel hard to find says new things are starting in the new year 2018. This is going to be a big year for us all in Family Tree. That makes me happy that we can contribute to you guys having a better year and a good year. That's awesome. That's awesome. uh, Magla, I'm going through this right now with my sister, and you have no idea how helpful you have been to me. Thank you so much for being such a big, such a kind soul. You're welcome. My wife doesn't always think that I'm a kind soul, do you, honey? My wife says we are all warriors here. And I think it's awesome that everyone here supports each other. When you're married, sometimes you're a warrior with your spouse. Isn't that true? um, so Bob says, maybe this is why the disgusting things happened to you, Mark, so that we could all connect and heal together. That's sort of what I've been trying to explain to traditional therapy and people that think, you know, in medical terms is, uh, yeah, I went through a shattering and I was sort of crazy and um, did some crazy things, but um, God can use your brokenness to help so many people. Well, thank you for. Agnes has been a dragon slayer last year, big time. So Jackie says, thank you for being vulnerable. That's a true sign of a real man. Everyone is a hero. Ellie says, check in isolated, but less so cause a church. So, okay, it's unanimous. We're going to call it Church for the Narcissistically Abused, and we'll use that title. Marlene says, my husband hasn't cried since 1997, and I told him I feel so close to him when he cries, but he won't. Empaths unite. So it's 10 after 10, and I think we started at about even before 8:30ish, right around 8:30ish. I think you guys started sooner and started chatting sooner, so that's really cool. Uh, Ruth Ann, I think there's more power, anointing, compassion when what is shared or taught is from experience, especially when it's from a vulnerable person. I think, I think that's true too. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. I could probably do this for another uh, hour or so, but I've got to pack. I've got to pack. I've got to pack my wife's clothes. She needs warm clothes, so we're going to get on Skype and go through the closet and find clothes for her, and I've got to get packed. So um, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Um, so I'll be back with you next week. I'll see if I can get somebody from Family Tree to join me next week instead of doing it by myself. But my wife will be off at onsite. Bach Concerto say this is our assignment. First thing in the morning, look in the mirror and say, I overshot. Doggone it. And say, I am fabulous and I am worth loving and I'm fantastic. And if nobody can see it, they're blind and it's their loss. Yeah, that would be a cool way to start the day. Sarah says, power on, peeps. Kelly says, thanks for a good show. Like the switch up. Cool. Cool. So again, we're a community. We're not just call and or text in and ask Mark questions, okay? Bob says good night and thank you. Andy says good night, everybody. Jackie says bye, Sora, and have a great week. Sarah says thanks, Mark and Renda. So God bless you guys. We'll talk with you next week. Love you guys.